Hey CJ, how's your week been?
Good so far. It's Thursday, so midweek now, so pushing through for bank holiday.
Bank holiday, yeah. You got your Easter eggs all sorted?
No, not one.
Not one?
No, have you?
No. Well, no. There's some that's coming through the post for the kids. Maybe that's why we've got Easter eggs in the house. Is that we have children?
Yeah.
You always got to scratch your head a little bit. Fully grown adults got like
Yeah.
10 Easter eggs.
No,
Dear,
number of Easter eggs have gone down as I've got older now.
Yeah, I used to get toys. I used to get toys as a kid. I think my mum encouraged me not to eat so much chocolate, even though she's a chocolate fiend herself.
Yeah.
So that was interesting growing up.
You used to have so many, honestly, so many Easter eggs. It used to be a bit overwhelming. But now, haven't you? Well, maybe some on the way.
I think what might be interesting is the fact that I've actually not been into the supermarket for such a long time, because that's generally where you get
They've been out
absolutely
since
hammered.
like Jan.
Yeah. So again, maybe it's a last minute kind of thing. Go get some Easter eggs. But no, I'm away this Easter anyway. So hot topic of conversation, sort of ties up a little bit with the kids and training. But what I wanted to do is find out a little bit more about your training. So obviously last week we found out about your nutrition. But I want to sort of have an understanding of what you're currently doing and sort of like what you're prioritizing, why that is, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, what's your training looking like at the moment?
At the moment, I am doing the classes. If I can't make a class, then I'll try and do something. Maybe do the class on my own, which is very unlikely because the classes have been quite hard recently. So motivation, I want to be in the classes to get that push. I was training, doing my own thing with a bit more of a target towards my gymnastics, but I think because we've been busy here, motivating myself to do it on my own has been not as great. So rather than slump through it, I've then gone into the classes. I'm finding it a lot, feeling fitter, I think, being able to push myself a little bit more. My goal really is just to do the classes, eat well, and just see what that should give me better results.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you've lost a bit of weight already.
Thank you.
In 7 days.
Is that? Oh yeah, from our last
From
podcast.
our last conversation.
No, it's feeling better.
Yeah.
I just think from training on my own, from doing that for a while, to go into the classes. Every time I do a class if I was training on my own, it would give me a bit of a reality check, I think.
Yeah.
So I'd go in the class and be like, I feel a bit unfit
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So then doing the classes now, I'm trying to keep up with the fitter people in the class. I think that's pushing me a lot harder. Training on my own, it made me realise the lack of intensity I brought to the session.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, the thing is that it's I think it's slightly different for us versus maybe someone else coming and training on their own, because we spend a lot of our time here. So I find it very difficult to compartmentalize my own individual training with actually being a member of staff here, because it just gets a little bit of a conflict. I might be sitting down, I might notice something, or someone comes into the gym, that kind of thing. And so I kind of sort of feel it on that perspective for you. And plus my goals have massively changed
What is your goal then now?
Just to get some consistent training in. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's just been up and down and up and down, and then all of a sudden it's like, I want to get my leg strength back in, and then I'll go off and I'll go and do some squats, and then what tends to happen then is that something else will derail me. So what I've like you've decided to do is just to knuckle down, be consistent. And so that means now this week I've done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm going to do today's lunchtime workout, and so lunchtime works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. However, in order for me to to do that lunchtime, it means that I've had to balance my time here working in Dragon, plus also my time working at home and allowing Ange to get fitter training in and around also, right? Just because of the children. And that's one of the interesting things, that when we sort of start to have a look at the demographic that we have in the gym, is like there's a small minority of members with young children compared to those who without. And it's amazing how much your time just gets taken away and it's not in a negative aspect. It's just like, you know, we have different priorities, you know.
I think that's when you're like time management. So I think what's worked for me is if you timetable your week out, so make sure there's an hour every day where you can get your training in. Because I think we tell people, especially as coaches, I think sometimes people think we're doing something completely different, or we can do things very easier because we coach. I think we struggle to do consistency as well. But I think once you give yourself that hour a day, and we tell people, give yourself an hour where you come in, train, everything else feels a lot better when you do that. I think it's almost taking your own advice. So for you, getting that lunchtime class, an hour of your day where it's like Andy time.
Yeah. Well, it also means that I can actually push the intensity. So it's because I do only have that time to train, I'm literally going to pull the pin and, you know, try and go as hard as I can, you know, max the loads, all that kind of stuff.
Have you enjoyed the classes?
Yeah, I've enjoyed them.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed them. There's yesterday's was a lot of fun, but it also made me realise how unfit I am, and that's one of the hardest things, is comparing oneself.
Got a good time yesterday. I suppose you're comparing from what you've had previously.
Yeah. So I mean,
so you've got that expectation.
There is an expectation. Just how hard running felt, and I think that was across the board. You know, as the weather gets nice and we start to include a little bit more running at higher paces than what we would do. Let's say go out for a 5k. Oh, by the way, you see, Adzi did a 5k. It must have hurt. Nearly took him 40 minutes.
Well, he thought it was 5k, didn't he? It was.
Oh, it was 5 miles. Oh, sorry. So I apologize. I didn't know. I did
7k. I think.
Oh, so 7k or fair dues. No, that was actually a pretty good time. Yeah. So maybe I should be a little bit more accurate in what I'm looking at. But yeah, you know, in terms of the class, it's been really good. Also, what it allows me to do is sort of like dig in, because obviously you learn in the process in terms of programming, etc. So it allows me to give you a little bit of feedback, and also monitor all the guys' coaching as well. So Rod's coaching lunchtime today, is that right? No, that's you, is it? All right, so same as Tuesday, right? Watching, making sure it keeps check. Yeah, and the other thing is as well, right? So let's say with people who are doing different programs, etc. Now, depending on what that goal is, right? If it's a tangible marker in terms of strength, all right? So squat.
Yeah.
I spoke with one of the members yesterday in a goal review session, and there was like goals all over the place. Okay, and it's just like, well, let's pick one. Yeah. What do you want?
That's what I find. I think that's the beauty of CrossFit, though. So you come in, and I've got same sort of thing. Speak with someone about their goals. They're like, I want to lift better. I want to do my gymnastics. Also, want to be fit in the classes, and it's kind of trying to. The classes give you that overall. Yeah. Gradually, you get better. But if there's one thing you really want to focus on, and like you said previously, it's kind of that extra time spent doing something else. Yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily an extra time, but it's all about that priority piece, right? So, you know, someone I had a chat with a member on another goal review session. I want to do 5 classes a week. We've just told me you want to get stronger. Well, it'll take you a longer time to get stronger doing 5 classes a week, or you can drop 1 or 2. And then still come into the gym, still come in at the same time, but then just do your squats. You know, I'm a massive. No, that's the point. So, but if that is that tangible marker, you have to keep everything in. And so the caveat I always have, you know, and we've got a competitors program running here. The caveat I always have is that if you can then go back into a regular class and dominate, then I'm like, thumbs up. All right, and I don't care if anyone listens and it offends people and stuff like that.
My reality check.
Yeah, I'm like, you need to come in and you need to bring it, okay? Because then it's okay that you're going off and doing other things. If you come into the class and you don't, then you need to look at something else. Because my theory and my thought process is this: you go and do additional things to get stronger and to increase skill set. But where fitness comes in, where you have to bring it all together, you're not going to be able to replicate it, you know. So it's a bit like, you know, we call it the Ben Howie, you know, right? The Ben Howie just turns up, but that guy goes away and he does a lot of training off shift, all right, and, you know, generally he conscripts to the whole CrossFit idea. But Ben doesn't really sign up to, I need to go and get then work on these skills, or I don't need to go and go and do this. So it's a fine balance. I just think when it comes down to like yesterday's workout, you got barbell cycling and running. I mean, as a workout goes, I don't think you can get anything better for developing fitness. Just because of the the ability and the capacity to do it. But yeah, it's one of those things. And again, goals will then determine how much time you can spend on certain things. And I guess the whole thing with having kids, and the other thing is as well as being in a relationship, is that there has to be a bit of yin and yang. So both of us feel that we need to do fitness.
Yeah.
At least something every day or every other day, with the realistic, because it's the Easter holidays now, so our schedule's a little bit up. And, in all fairness to Anne, she's been pretty flexible looking after the kids. But, we're trying and maintain the same routine that we have outside of it. So, like, Angie will come in, she'll train in the morning, I'll look and take the kids to school, and I'll take all of them. And then we'll swap over, and then I'm in for the day, so I've got to get my training in and my work in during that time. Whereas I think sometimes, I don't want to sort of but when people say that they just don't have time to train, and then you look through the things, it's a lot easier for us to maybe have a frank conversation between me and you about it, and people listening in can take what they want from it, rather than telling someone straight away, I'm like, where are you wasting your time?
But it's that, like you said before, like priority. So say if your work starts at 9 and you don't know if you're going to be out from 5 p.m. or sometimes work goes over, you're not out till 6:30. So then you say, right, why don't you try and get to the 6 a.m. class? They're like, I can't get up in the morning. So it's like just back and forth. Like, when are we going to find that sweet spot where you can maybe go to bed earlier, get up earlier, actually get your training in, and then have the rest of your day free. So it's just trying to manage your time and your priorities. So if you consistently have not the same moan, but I'm not feeling better, I'm not feeling fitter, I'm not feeling any more, I don't feel like my training's going anywhere. It's like, well, what are you actually doing to get towards your goals?
Yeah, well, I mean, some people might not have goals, right? So
I don't think I do at the moment.
The question is that why you're training?
Yeah.
So the mental health aspect's massive. I actually think that's probably one of the most important things. But then obviously the physiological benefits as well. Now, if you don't, I guess, attribute one of those things to your training, then it does sometimes feel like a pointless journey. And again, managing one's time is about just building consistency. As you said prior to switching everything on, it's like, well, people prioritize work. Great, okay, and that's what you want to do. But if you feel that training is part of that weekly cycle, then you have to build in those consistent times. It's not one of the things like we charge a lot of money compared to another gym. So if you wanted to go to Pure Gym and pay £20 or £30 a month, okay, then you are, I sort of say you're not prioritizing, but it's more of the fact that it's there, I can go there when I want, I can get in with this. Whereas with us is that we want to guarantee that when you do come to a class, you're getting an unbelievable workout. But it's, as we said before, it's more like a group training or group personal training in terms of there's an element of an accountability there. It's like, I want to make sure that you are turning up at this time, and that's why it costs a little bit more, because the attention to detail that you get in terms of the actual experience that you get, in terms of the results that you will get in a quicker and more thought out, fashionable way. It's so it is really, it's an interesting thing, because those who do get up at 5:30, 5 o'clock to get in and train at 6, I'm like, you've obviously had to prioritize things elsewhere. And so what we call them, they are our A-type individuals, and that bleeds into the 7 a.m. as well. Okay, so what we see is, depending on what's going on in the seasons, is that it's either maxed out or it's in the floor. And then what we're starting to see now is that as the nights are getting longer, we're starting to see 5:30, 6:30 pick up quite considerably. So it's like, I actually think it's down to Rod's coaching, Mr. Personality. But we're now starting to max out the 6:30 p.m. So again, that's a slightly different individual who probably goes to bed a little bit later, likes to have a little bit of a lie-in, but wants to get their work done and dusted and out the way. I mean, like, for me, I take my hat off to those individuals because...
I find it harder.
Oh, yeah, massive. Like, and I've done it. You know, I went, you know, nearly 20 years ago. Well, that's not quite 20 years, but at least 15 years ago, okay? But it's like, it's the hardest thing to do. So that's why I think the group classes for those individuals is like the best thing since sliced bread, because your brain's been on all day. You literally come in through the door, and again, I talk about this thing called, you know, compartmentalization or what have you. You know, you're coming here for a specific thing, so we're going to put you on that journey, and we're going to make sure you have the best hour that you can to maximize the outcome. And I think there's a good vibe there. It's the same consistent people. That's why the lunchtimes are getting really popular with us. It's like we've pulled in a few people now, and it's like a good group, and I think that's one of the things which people have to sort of lean into. So let's say you do have someone who is like, you know, mad worker, you know, is massively career driven, you know, it's the letting go of coming into the gym and not just getting a workout, but seeing the same people quite consistently, because then you're going to build up some rapport and some friendship. Because training with friends, I mean, like since year dot, and I've started, you know, training. I've got, you know, maybe Mike Johnson's got or Andy Clark's got a longer training history than I have. It's just I've started from year dot, and I started with my dad, and so I had a training partner from the moment of inception, and it's always been there, and you've had different ones, etc. Whereas a lot of people, when they come into CrossFit, don't have any training background, so they don't understand the concept. And Pure Gym's not gonna, you know, and I hate the bag, you know, them as an organization. It could be Simply Gym, it could be Easy Gym, right? But that is not part and parcel of going into that kind of training environment, right? It is a very isolated in headphones banging, and that's why I'm a little bit 50-50 when people wear headphones in the gym, because I get it, you don't want to be disturbed when you're training in this kind of environment, but you know, definitely put them in the gym, not outside, and not as you're walking in, right? Because I will smile and I will ask you how your day is and be a bit of a nose. But yeah, I think you know, it's given into that part as well because of the community thing. So, you know, as Angie puts it, you know, she goes, it's great to spend some time with people the same age as me. So, you know, you can imagine from Angie's perspective that she's all day with the kids. You know, there's only a certain level of conversation you can have with an 8, a 2, and a 7-month-old. So, you know, coming in and, you know, doing the class, having a bit of a chin wag. I don't want to sort of say sometimes it just teaches people to actually be a little bit more outgoing, but I mean, we've seen, like, I can see it, right? The people who engage with the community or within that class tend to do a lot better because it becomes enjoyable. So if you are, you know, maybe, you know, suffer with a bit of anxiety or, you know, slightly introvert, okay, just be friendly because it will pay off in the long run. You know, if you and effort is everything. Give out, all right, and then you should receive. And then if you give out and you don't receive, you've got to let us know, because I'll be like telling that person, be like, oi, you know. So there's stuff like that, you know, because, you know, it is daunting. I don't want it to be like, you know, old school playground rules and stuff. So, you know, that's why we have those kind of like partner workouts. It's just like, you know, it's a bit of a sharing of the process, etc.
I don't want anyone to feel like they're at school either when I say, right, get into partners, and they look round, they're like, right, who am I going to go with? As long as you go up, and I've seen it more now, the more we have it, you see someone turn around and say, do you want to be with me? They're like, yep, cool, brilliant. And then they start chatting, and I've always said, you never PB on your own. Always PB with people. So you'll always do a little bit, you always push a little bit harder, training with someone or around people, I think.
Well, I mean, like, just in terms of the cycle of it, you know, in terms of when I was doing, let's say, some form of individualized program, like, my training group has changed over the years. So, you know, for example, we've got Sri Lankan's second fittest man. He's second now, and he's second fittest man. Okay, he trains on his own, gets away with it. You know, it sits in within his day, but, you know, guaranteed it's very different from when we used to train together. You know, and so they're trying to manage it and try and train together as much as possible. There's people who are following their own path and their own goal, and it's only when, I guess, they're exposed to that group environment do they see if the seeds of its worth, and that's the important thing. And even as as a high-level programmer, I always tend to tell athletes at some point you either need to drag someone in to see how you're doing, or jump in with something else to see how you're doing. Because unless it's a regimented strength plan or skill development plan, some of the more specific CrossFit elements, all right, or fitness elements, it's neither here nor there.
It's like that pyramid, isn't it? Like that metabolic conditioning, and it's what's next?
So the theoretical hierarchy of the development
here
of an athlete.
Shouldn't have
So it's the cornerstone, right? So it's one of those things that, and again, for you guys, it's just a refresher. But the bottom of this pyramid, right, you've got to think that there's nutrition, all right? And by this pyramid, right, every level up, all right, is based and developed from the level below. So nutrition's at the bottom of that pyramid. Basically, that says you just can't out-train a shitty diet, right? Yeah. We all know
Tried
it, doesn't work, okay? When you're consuming loads of calories, that means you have to train exponentially more, right? So that's how the endurance community get away with it. But they generally have a great set of lungs, a good cardiovascular system, a little flappy belly like this, yeah, because they just take in way too many carbohydrates to fuel training. And they're weak. End of. This. In terms of that's what it is. It's not a look I go for, but God, they can run fast, they can swim fast. It's a skill in itself to do that, right? The trick is trying to balance it all. Above that, you've got metabolic conditioning, which realistically is what CrossFit is famous for. You could say a monostructural metabolic conditioning, which it would be those endurance athletes, etc. However, when you put it into a real life scenario, you want to lift, you want to be able to run and stuff like that. So that's fundamentally where we push a lot of our classes towards. Above that then, okay, you have gymnastics. So that's your ability to control your body in space, all right? That's not outer space. That's just the space around us. So push-ups, pull-ups, jumping on a box. I mean, the number of success stories we have with people becoming or having the ability to jump on a box is second to none. And in fact, there's an element of coordination, agility, accuracy, and balance, which is all included in that. So if you are fearful of jumping or struggle with jumping, it is definitely something that one should work on. Okay, similar to sort of running, because I know that we've got people in the classes who not necessarily fear running, but because of an injury, etc., might tend to not prioritize it enough. But that's another thing. And then you have, after gymnastics, then you have weightlifting. So you can see you've got to go through all those parts first before you actually get to the loaded environments. But the tendency tends to happen that those new to it just want to snatch, clean, jerk, and sling it around. But like if you have a look at, let's say, some of the high level athletes, I don't say athletes, clients, whatever, that come in, what they've already got is that they've had those stages developed prior to coming in and doing CrossFit. So if, for example, if you take someone who's got a decent background within a sport, they've maybe looked at nutrition, they've maybe developed the metabolic conditioning, they've developed gymnastics just doing weightlifting. Well, I mean, Rod actually is a multi-sport athlete.
Rowing.
So what was the first one you did? Started off with rugby, then went to rowing, metabolic conditioning.
Yeah.
Then CrossFit, so that's where he brought in that element of gymnastics.
Oh, and then you did weightlifting.
And then weightlifting. So like Rod is a powerful guy, okay? Not particularly strong, but very powerful. He's very, do you know what I mean? So strength is the ability to exert a force, all right? Whereas power is to be able to exert force fast, yeah? And so like, anyone who's got a 60-inch box jump, without a warm-up, for me, is like one of the most powerful
in his
people
vans,
in the world.
Isn't it?
In his vans, yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, but like, so for example, someone, very good weightlifter, UK one, Sonny Webster. All right, so Sonny Webster just, did weightlifting, still an incredibly good athlete. However, his toes to bar aren't the best. Do you know what I mean? So does that make sense? You can come in and you can do weightlifting, but the trickle down's a little bit harder. So everyone will always throw back about the Matt Fraser thing. Oh, Matt Fraser was a weightlifter. Matt Fraser did a double somersault at 14 on a set of skis. All right, someone said, "I bet you can't do it." Guy, do you know, there was something before the weight. Yeah. It's in the documentary. It's like, I can see why this guy is, an adapted athlete. You take Jamie, for example. Jamie comes from a gymnastic and a rugby background, and then when you go into CrossFit and then start to add in the weightlifting, that's why it's super important. And
trying to keep all the plates spinning.
Well, it is trying to keep, but you think about the program which we're doing now, right? Everyone's like, oh, well, there's not enough squats, there's not this, it's that, right? Well, we have small touches on it, and what we're trying to do is to get the metabolic condition in the gymnastics, your weight, and then the weightlifting's always going to be a little bit easier. But the thing is that it's very hard for us to have that conversation unless we do like a podcast or something. Yeah. So it is interesting. I always call it the way in which we program is to develop athleticism.
Yeah.
All right, and so athleticism doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do CrossFit and become an amazing athlete. What it means is that you're going to become more athletic, and so the ability to just do shit.
It's like when people say, "Oh, I'm not going to the games." We're like, "We know you're not going to the games, but we want to make you be able to do athletic things."
Well, yeah, I mean, the stories.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the needs of our grandparents and Olympic athletes differ by degree, not kind. Okay, meaning that we want everyone to excel at life, and whatever their life is, that's what they excel at, right? And that for us here as an organisation is that's what we're trying to promote is a healthy lifestyle. Be it fitter than you were, and have the capacity to do more shit than you used to be able to do, and to do it for a long time. I have got injured doing training, all right, by not adhering to the principles of take small steps forward, right? So, the major injuries I've had in, let's say, my CrossFit time of doing CrossFit is when I've just not been sensible. Does that make sense? It's like CrossFit doesn't get you injured, not being stupid does.
What, taking like big...
Not warming up correctly, all right, and then taking too big of steps, tearing a bicep when I shouldn't have actually competed. What else? Hamstrings, okay. That's actually, it's all right. That was a warning. It was okay.
That's a
demo. It was okay. It was definitely a warning, all right. But yeah, like do my back, right? I did my back because I'd sat down for 2 days solid. I'd driven for 9 hours, all right, either side of that, and then I'm jumping in and going, no, I'm going to do a 5x5 back squat. So again, there's those things, yeah. It's like having the awareness of, having the things. That's what part of the coaching staff does. Is like we'll have a conversation. It's like last night, okay. So I've told one individual you need to put more weight on. No, I've got a bad wrist. Okay, cool, go with it. All right, at least you're here training. Put some more weight on. Oh, I've got a bad back. Okay, cool. At least we're having that conversation. Yeah. And the only way in which we can have those conversations is through consistency. All right, so consistency with the ability to see people develop and move forward. And that's the other thing, in terms of CrossFit training or in terms of what we do here at Dragon, maybe versus some other, fitness methodologies or gyms or training programs, is that we can give you the guidance when you may be unsure.
Yeah, and you see the people that have been coming in consistently, and by them seeing them do, say pull-ups is always the main one. Start on a green band, now they're on a black band.
Yeah.
So they've been coming over the weeks, and now they can progress through. As if they were in and out all the time, it'd be like, well, I can't think of a saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, the big one for me with all this, where we were meant to be talking about, in terms of like, I want to see more parents here. More parents of young kids here. I want to see us help those individuals because they will benefit quite a lot from it. So again, whether it's a call to arms or whether someone who would benefit from it, okay, is that I think people have to just sort of say, hey, go and do this, go try this, come and bring a friend along, whatever it is, just to sort of encourage those people because they need it more than anyone else. Mm-hmm. And it's just based on my the experience that I've had with my brother-in-law. Okay, so my brother-in-law was working incredibly hard, incredibly diligently over the last 2 years through lockdown, working from home, but everyone knows what happens when you work at home. You're always closer to the fridge. Okay, cool. I'm working my way through that myself. However, put on a lot of weight. And then just decided to make his job a bit more challenging by being organised. So goes to, lives basically a walking's distance away from a gym. He's decided to get up at like 5:30, walk to the gym, train, walk back, have a shower, then go to work. All right. So again, there's an element of having to close the laptop at a certain time in the evening so that you can do that, and that has a positive knock-on effect, right? Because then all of a sudden is that you have the ability to switch off, get that bit done, and then move on. I was listening to like the recent Joe Rogan podcast, and I think I remember you can multitask. All right, this is a Theodore Roosevelt thing or something. You can multitask, but don't expect to do either thing well.
Yeah.
All right. So you know, it's one of those things is that you can multitask, but it's not going to be as good as if you prioritize on one thing. And so that's what I would say is if you've got certain bits and pieces you want to prioritize them in a given time, and then try and timetable everything around that.
And he's done well, Pure Gym.
Done very well. Yeah. He's down to high 90s, so he's gone from 113 kgs. All right, down to the high 90s, and he's still got a bit more to do, but he's just being consistent. He found what worked for him. He's not trying to he's not over reaching, right? He's not trying to get too much in. He's just seeing what it is, and it's about that consistency, right? So we're always trying to knock it out the park. Right, now I know you've got your class.
Kids class.
Yes. Right? Start them young, get them hooked. Okay.
9 to 12-year-olds, Olympic lifting.
Yeah. Push the kids hard.
Your daughter's doing it today.
Yeah, she's got plenty of people with her. So she's in a training group.
Shouting from the sideline.
No, I won't be. I've got another call to go on to after this, so we'll have to wait and see. Any final thoughts?
Goal reviews. Sometimes if you haven't got a goal, you're not really sure, that's fine. You don't need a goal, just turn up. If there is something that springs to mind particularly, then have a chat with us, let us know. Most of the time to get towards your goal, it might not be massive changes, sometimes it might, but sometimes just a chat and a bit more of a direction does really help. Yeah,
so we run the goal review sessions at the end of every quarter, okay? So it's hard for us to get the time away to get to do the individual pieces, but I think our next goal review session date is going to be the end of July. Is that we just done March, April, May, June, end of June. So if you're interested in sitting down with one of us just to sort of navigate the next 90 days, all right, end of June is when we'll be getting you back in.
Could be lifestyle training or anything that we can help with,
except finances and relationships.
Maybe.
All right, cheers, Clara.
Over and out.